Good morning, good morning, good morning. So basically, I've been going through a lot of things as concerning my health. And I was talking to my boyfriend last night, and he basically was telling me, I was telling him that I was looking into, trying to, you know, do some personal thing. I don't really want to speak too much on what I'm doing, but had a lot to do with my health and how I was treated and how I wasn't treated. So some people know, like my family, a couple like associates of mine, they know, my friends, they know, but not a lot of people know exactly what I've been going through. So basically, back in 2016, back in 2016, I went to my OBGYN doctor complaining to her about my heavy hemorrhaging. If you don't know what that means bleeding, menstrual periods. I was complaining to her about that, like letting her know, like, I'm bleeding a lot, I'm bleeding heavily. I'm going through like freaking 2 packs of pads in like a week or so because I had to constantly keep changing my sanitary napkins, So she was like, okay, well, last time I saw you had your annual pap smear was like back in 2015. So we're going to do a routine pap smear on you. And then, that was basically it. So I'm like, okay, well, is this gonna, see how this, like, is this pap smear gonna show you anything that could be possibly wrong? So, like, she really wasn't answering the questions that I needed for her to answer. But, she's my doctor, so I'm, believing, or I'm just gonna, like, you know what? I'm gonna just go with what she's saying. I really don't know. This never happened to me before. This only started happening, 2016. Now, I had a daughter in 2012. So, after I had my daughter, I did have, irregular periods, but they weren't like how they started to get in 2016. Now, when I had my daughter in 2012, I had to have an emergency C-section because my placenta, which is, where the baby gets all the nutrients and things like that, it had abrupted, meaning, it exploded basically. So my baby, she wasn't getting the nutrients that she needed. So they had to do an emergency C-section so that we both wouldn't die. I had lost so much blood then, I had to get a blood transfusion. When I did that blood transfusion, I believe they gave me 2 units of blood just to get my blood back up. That was my first ever blood transfusion. Now, moving forward, back to 2016, when I went to my doctor, I let her know what was going on with me. So she did the pap smear or whatever. And then I was like, well, like, what's next? Are we going to do like a sonogram or something? Because I'm like, there's no reason why I should be bleeding the way I'm bleeding. So she was like, oh, well, it's probably like, just irregular periods, or maybe it's like your hormones or whatever. So I'm just going to give you some birth control pills. Okay, so I took the pills. Now, it didn't stop the bleeding. I was still bleeding. She just basically sent me out. She never like ran the test that she needed to do to, see what was the cause of the bleeding. Like, it was really bad. Okay. So then I went to a doctor again. Like, the bleeding had stopped maybe like a month later. So between February and then March, like ending of March, that's when the bleeding had stopped. So I was like, all right. She said it was irregular periods. I Googled it, did my research. Okay, but this is what an irregular period is. I'm going, but she was telling me. So then maybe around October, because for some reason my menstrual cycle always comes around my birthday. It's been like this lately. It did it last year and it did it this year. So anyway, I went to a new doctor because I felt like with my first doctor, and that first doctor that I had went to in February, she was the one I was always going to for years, because she was the one who was there when I was pregnant with my daughter. So she was my doctor. Then she was supposed to deliver my daughter, but being that it was an emergency thing, I had to go to like the nearest hospital. So she didn't get a chance to deliver my baby. But I was going for her so long. So I was like, you know what? I felt like she kind of dismissed what I was telling her. As my doctor, I felt like she didn't do her due diligence to help me. So I was like, you know what? I need to see a specialist. And they was like, oh, it's a specialist that you can go and see. She's good, or whatever the case is. So I was like, okay. Now I go to the next doctor in November of 2016. And this lady, she's like, she did more than what the first doctor did. She was like, okay, well, we're going to give you an examination. They did the examination. Then she said, I'm going to, what did she tell me? She's like, they're going to do a sonogram. So they did the sonogram. They didn't find anything. So she's like, okay, you know what? We're going to have to do a transvaginal sonogram where you can see better. Because, sometimes you may have to go inside. So she was like, oh, well, we still really didn't see anything. But from your symptoms that you're telling me and stuff like that, it seemed like it could just be fibroids. So between 2016... that was November 2016 up until September of 2017. I believed that I had fibroids. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do about the fibroids? She gave me birth control pills. I'm like, okay, so is these birth control pills like just something that they just giving out or some shit? Like, what can we do if I have fibroids? Is birth control pills supposed to fix it? Like, I didn't know. So, excuse me. So in between November and that September 2016, I went to the hospital, Jamaica Hospital in Queens, on two different occasions. One time, I was bleeding so bad that I had to sleep on my couch, okay? So when I would get up from my couch and I would stand up, the blood would just like be pouring out of me like I pissed on myself. It was just so much blood. And my boyfriend, he was scared. He was like, oh my God, like what's going on? Like, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, the blood it was always heavy like this. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, it just keeps getting like this. It keeps getting worse and worse. I'm like, and every time he's like screaming at me, like, you need to go to the doctors. And I'm like, I do go to the doctors. And every time I go to a doctor, they're not, they're not doing anything for me. They just giving me birth control pills and then making me leave. So what am I supposed to do? I can't go and, get my own medication. I have to get what they're telling me to get. And they keep telling me, oh, yeah, this is a specialist. This is a specialist. And nobody's doing nothing special to help me. So I had to go to Jamaica Hospital. Went there. They do the same thing. They do the sonogram. They did a transvaginal sonogram. They give me a prescription again for birth control pills. Obviously, the birth control pills, and I tell them what I was prescribed by the doctors. Obviously, these birth control pills were not doing what they were supposed to do. So can we figure something out? When I mean, like, here's the thing. When I'm bleeding like this, it was messing with my daily activities. It was to the point, like, I couldn't get on a train. I couldn't sit down. When I was at work, like, I was having accidents with myself at work. I had to go to the point and get, like, Depend diapers. I'm 23 years old running around with Depend diapers on because my menstrual was just so heavy. And all these doctors ever did was just give me birth control pills. So, and this was and then those are the two times that I had went to Jamaica Hospital between November and that September. So finally, September 7th, 2017, again, I was bleeding heavily. My daughter, she had just started, kindergarten, right? So the whole time I was like, feeling really like I was bleeding for like months. I think I was bleeding for the whole month of October, from the beginning of October. And it was so much blood. So, no, I'm bugging out. Not the October because I just went forward. Okay, so I was bleeding from August all the way, like the beginning of August, all the way until September. So, like, I started feeling really lightheaded. Oh, my gosh. Sorry. Okay. So, I was always feeling super lightheaded. I was always tired. Like, it was to the point, like, I couldn't even stand up. And everything I'm saying is no exaggerations to what I'm saying. I couldn't stand up and cook a simple dinner for my daughter. It was to the point, like, I had to buy Chinese food all the time. I had to buy Chinese food all the time. I had to buy takeout food. I could barely clean my house. I could barely do anything. And when it was time for me, I couldn't even do her hair. See, I was in in the hair salon, taking my little baby to get her hair done because I couldn't do her hair for the first day of school. I was like just out of it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take her to school, and then when she gets nuts, I was gonna go to the hospital after I dropped her off to school. But I'm like, you know what? Let me just take her after, because if they ain't make me stay or whatever, you never know how the hospital's gonna be when it's time to go. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna take her after she gets out of school. Picked her up from school. We hopped on a bus, went to the hospital. They ran, they took some blood, hospital. They take blood and they put you on the IV. And I'm explaining to them, listen, I've been having my period since August, the beginning of August. I still had it. I said, and it's so much, that I had to wear like these diapers or whatever. So they're like, okay, well, we're going to run the blood and we're going to do this and the third. So I said, all right. So they come back to me and they like, do you have anybody to come and pick up your daughter? Because it looks like you're going to have to stay. So I was like, okay, well, why would I need to stay? Like, what's going on? They tell me, oh, well, from your blood work, we could see that your forgive me because I don't know how to pronounce this word. Your hemoglobin, which is your blood, is like extremely low. Your blood is like, I believe it was like at a 3 or 4. You're like, if it would have went in, they told me like if I would have came in and I would have kept losing that blood, I would have died because I was just losing so much blood. If it would have went under, so not now, your blood, that's, it has to circulate, gotta get blood, the blood goes to your brain, your oxygen, all that shit. Like, I was and I didn't know why. I'm still up here believing the doctors, the first doctor with the irregular menstruals. And I'm like, well, I went to a doctor and she told me I had fibroids. I said, so, and that's what I'm going with all these years. Oh, well, I have fibroids because, that's what the doctor told me. So I had one doctor who was neglectful because she didn't run her proper test. She didn't do what she needed to do to help me when I went to her complaining the first time about my issue. Then I had a doctor misdiagnosing me, telling me I had fucking fibroids and I didn't. So, again, go to the doctor. You know how many fucking pap smears and transvaginal sonograms and regular sonograms I done had in these couple years? Like, usually you're supposed to get pap smear once a year, right? You really don't need to go and get a sonogram and a transvaginal sonogram all the time. But being the fact that I kept having these episodes of heavy bleeding, I couldn't, So, all right, I go to the doctor last year, 2017. That's when I found out my blood was super low. So, you're going to have to stay because we're going to have to give you a blood transfusion and you're going to have to stay overnight. I wound up staying in the hospital for maybe 3 days, because of the blood transfusion. Because matter of fact, I believe they gave me like maybe 3 or 4 units of blood, because the first 2 that they had gave me, it still didn't even bring my blood count up. So after that, they was like, you know what, you're gonna need more, and then we have to monitor you. So I wound up staying in the hospital for 3 days. I stayed away from my baby for 3 days, and I was so sad because she was in kindergarten, and I wanted to be there for her and things of that nature. So I wound up meeting with a GYN doctor there, and he told me, well, we really don't know what the issue is. Basically, it's probably like a hormonal thing. Your hormones are probably off. So we're going to give you some birth control pills and, you know, and then they gave me like this other pills to stop the bleeding. I can't remember what the name of the pill was, but it was another pill that basically stopped me from bleeding. Still didn't deal with the situation. I was just like happy to stop bleeding. So I took it. I was like, okay, is this going to make me stop bleeding? Like, I'm fine with that. Like, let's just, you know. And not only was I just bleeding regularly, I had blood clots the size of a baseball. They were huge blood clots. Like, it was times where I would go to the bathroom and, you know, they would just like be falling out like on the floor. Like, it looked like a bloody scene. Like, it looked like somebody was murdered in the bathroom when I would finish. Like, I would have to put on my gloves, get the bleach, get the spray, clean the bathroom down and stuff like that really, really good, you know, so other people could use the bathroom. It's like, I cannot live my life like this. If I'm out in public and I gotta use the bathroom, how the fuck am I going to use the bathroom? I don't got my bleach and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? So it made me not even want to go out. It made me self-conscious about going out because I had this issue. So, all right, after the bleeding stopped, I was like, all right, cool. Let that happen. So now, and that was back last September. So now this year, 2018, I started bleeding September the 28th. I remember the date. I started bleeding September the 28th. So I'm like, all right, cool. You know, so I didn't really have my period the whole summer. I had my menstrual my menstrual in June of 2018. So then July, August, I didn't have my period. And then September came. Like, you know, basically September, it went by, no menstrual or whatever. And then it came, boom. I'm like, okay, I know it was about to happen. But this time, my menstrual didn't go away until the day when I went in for surgery, which was November the 30th. Now, so in between that time, let me tell you what happened. So September, you know, I'm like, all right, here go my menstrual. I'm like, it's probably going to be here for like 2 weeks or whatever. And it's going to be heavy again. So it kept going. September. Then November came. I'm like, all right, whatever. All right. September, okay. And then October came. Had it for my daughter. I'm like, all right, I'll be cool. Still had it. My daughter's birthday is October 9th. Still bleeding. I'm like, oh, God, here we go. I'm like, it should be done. So then it stopped maybe 2 days. So I was like, good. I'm like, it stopped right before my birthday. I'm going to have fun. Nope. It came right back. Had my menstrual for my whole birthday. Yeah, so it started in November. It started in September. Had it for my birthday. Had it for my daughter's birthday. Had it through Thanksgiving. And then I was like, you know what? I can't deal with this shit no more. So I went to my doctor again. I went to go pick up an asthma pump from my doctor. And then I was still feeling lightheaded. I still, because I was bleeding for so long. So I was feeling lightheaded. I was feeling tired and things like that. And I'm like when I was tired, like I couldn't even make it through the day without having to take like 2 naps. I couldn't barely cook. It was really stressful and draining to my life. So I went to the doctor and I told her, I said, excuse me, miss, I said, I need to see like a doctor, a GYN, whoever's available. I'm like, I really need to see them. So she was like, okay, well, I see that, this was your doctor before. Do you want to see her? I was like, no. I said, because I felt like she didn't do what she was supposed to do as a doctor. I don't want her because she don't do shit. I'm like, all she did was do her little pap smear, throw me some birth control pills, and send me on my way. She didn't even run any tests. She didn't even try to get down to the real root of my issue. So she was like, you know what? It's a really good doctor. He's a specialist. I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, because they always say it's a specialist, and they turn out to be, people who just gonna throw a pill at me and keep it going. So she was like, no, he's a really good doctor, whatever. So I go to the doctor, and I go to him, and he, I explain my situation. He's like, all right, well, we're gonna do, a routine pap smear on you, whatever, and then we're going to, I'm gonna send you down for a sonogram and a transvaginal sonogram. I'm like, oh my God, miss. I said, they've been doing this to me for years. I said, and nothing's at work. He's like, so listen, we're going to do that. He was like, then once the results come back, we'll come up with a plan. He was like, I'm going on a vacation for 2 weeks. He was like, but, you know, he was like, the results should come back. Excuse me, goodness. Your results should come back in a week or so. He was like, then that week, and then he's like, then I'll make an appointment for you that Thursday. I was like, all right, cool. So I go, we do the sonogram and stuff like that. We do the blood work. We do everything, stuff like that. So between that time, things just like took a turn for the worse. Like, I was walking one day to pick up my daughter, and I literally like had like 3 spells of blacking out while I was walking. Like, I just saw blackness, but I felt my body still moving. Like, it felt like I was in a dream. So, like, it went dark for, like, let's say, like 5 seconds while I was walking. But I still felt my body moving. So, I was like, let me stop walking, close my eyes, regroup. Like, I was scared. So, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm like, I think I'm going to sit on the side of this curb and call 911 because... And it was like maybe like 15 minutes before it was time for me to pick up my daughter from school. And I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, because I don't have nobody to pick her up from school. It's literally just us. Like, I need to get to her school and get her. So I'll get there and then, you know, I'll just take a cab coming home. So, ran to the store real quick. I'm pushing myself to like the extreme. Like, let me go try because I was gonna make her some dinner. So you know what? I don't even think I could stand up and cook. So I went and got my baby a TV dinner and picked her up from school. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this. Like, I still was bleeding like heavily. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna take a cab, take her to school, stay in the cab, and then I'm gonna tell them to take me to the hospital because the doctor told me if, you know, things took a turn for the worse, go to the hospital, mention his name. Went to the hospital. They like, I got in the hospital like maybe 9 o'clock. They did the blood work. You know, they did, you know, they little routine shit. Hooked me up to heart monitors, IVs and stuff like that. So as I'm laying there, they come and they say, you know what, the GYN doctor come, not my doctor yet. It was another one that was in the hospital. He tells me, you know, he asked me what was the problem. So I'm like, you know, I've had my menstrual since September the 28th, blah, 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 blah. You know, I said, I had blood transfusions in the past because of this situation. I said, I've been dealing with this situation for a very long time. So he was like, all right, well, we're going to just run some more tests. Then we're going to send you down for a sonogram and a transvaginal sonogram. I'm like, oh my fucking God. I just had these shits done to me like a couple weeks ago. But I'm like, you know what? Let me just do what these doctors, because I'm like, it seems as though this is just going to be my life. Because it seems like every time they just do a sonogram, they do a transvaginal sonogram, they give me a fucking birth control pills and they send me on my way. So, all right. Do the thing. They like, okay, well, we don't see anything on the, no. So, all right. So they tell me I need to do a blood transfusion. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, well, how long is this going to take? Because, you know, I'm like, I got to pick up my daughter from school. It's like 12 o'clock. I'm like, she get out of school at 4. I'm like, so maybe, you know, if y'all hurry up and do this, I have time to go get her. So they're like, oh, honestly, tell you the truth, like, you'll probably be in here for a couple hours. So I'm like, well, let me just make some phone calls, call some people, see if they can pick up my daughter from school. So as we doing that, they're like, all right, we're gonna so then my doctor comes in at this whole time I'm in the ER, you know, on the bed and stuff like that. They take me back and forth, having me pee in cups, you know, stuff like that. So my doctor comes in the ER and he's like, you know, your hemoglobin is like extremely low. It's at a 6 right now. You know, it's, you know, you need it to be at a 9 and above. So they're going to give you, you know, 2 units of blood and you should be out of here, you know, by tomorrow. So I'm like, oh my God. He was like, but what I really want to do is, you know, he said, they show me the results from your sonogram and your transvaginal sonogram. We don't see anything on your sonogram So he's like, but it's a reason why you're bleeding the way you're bleeding. It's not normal. And he's like, I can't say it's just your hormone imbalance for the way you're bleeding. Like, I had, like, my uterus was so swelled up and everything like that because I was bleeding for so long that it winds up giving me like an infection. It was crazy. So he was like, you know what, we're gonna just have to go inside. He said we're gonna have to do a surgery. So I'm like, okay, like, what kind of surgery? Please don't tell me I gotta open me up. Like, please don't let it be like that. So he's like, you know, like, we're gonna have to go. He's like, we're gonna put you to sleep. And like, he was explaining to me, like, you know, like, and this was the first doctor who ever sat down and explained anything to me. So he's like, we're gonna put you to sleep. We're gonna you know, go inside of the uterus with a little camera or whatever the case is. He was like, I can't tell you what I'm gonna find because I won't know until I actually get inside of there. So he was like, you know, he's like, I don't want to have to burn anything. He's like, but, you know, if there's something like extremely wrong, he's like, you know, it might be a chance that we're going to have to, you know, burn out something inside of the uterus or whatever. He's like, but I'm letting you know everything now because, you know, I don't want to have to wake you up to then tell you what's going on to then have to put you back under. So I was like, all right, you right. So basically, he went inside with the little camera and they put me to sleep or whatever. He went inside of my uterus and he found polyps in my uterus, which he told me that they scraped out and stuff like that. So this brings me back all the way. And then, like, after the surgery that happened on the 30th of November, I stopped bleeding, like, altogether. And then on the 13th of this month is when I had my menstrual cycle. And it's now starting to, you know, it started to, you know, kind of go away. But this brings me back all the way to 2016. I personally feel as though women, African American women, we don't get the treatment that we're supposed to get in these doctors or hospitals or anything like that. And the reason why I say this is because when I was doing my research and shit like that, I kept coming across these stories of these women, and they all seem to just be black. Like, oh, I went to my doctor complaining about a headache. They didn't believe me. They gave me an aspirin. They told me to go home. Couple months later, I go to the doctor, and it was like I had blood clots, or, you know, it was a growing tumor in my head that they just let me go home with. If these doctors do what they need to do, when you come to them and you letting them know firsthand, listen, this is what's going on with me. This is what's been happening. The first thing they quick to do is write you up a script and send you on your way. No, as doctors, you're supposed to do your due diligence and help us out. It is not fair that I've been dealing with this situation since 2016, okay? I feel like I'm going to blame this first doctor that I went to because I feel as though if she would have did her job, ran her proper tests, send me out for, Jesus, they working hard as hell up there. If they would have sent me out for, you know, like the first scans and stuff like that, you know, or let's say if you don't know what you're doing, then refer me to somebody who knows what they're doing. I feel like this system is definitely racially biased. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the world period is just racist. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to an African American woman's health, we are so undertreated. We go to these doctors, and you know, I was talking to my boyfriend, and he was telling me, matter of fact, I should have recorded this show last night when he was here because we was talking about it. So I'm only gonna give you, like, you know, I'm paraphrasing the stuff that he was saying. I can't tell you word for word because, you know, he was talking a lot, but like me. But he was basically saying, like, you know, how they, like, you know, they don't want to really sometimes work with certain people because of the insurance. I'm like, at the end of the fucking day, guess what? The doctor that I just went to, he really helped me out. He saved my life, basically, I can say, because I've been dealing with this bleeding for so long. And he is the first doctor who actually went inside to find out the problem. All they do is, oh, your hormones are, if I'm telling you, listen, I'm going through like fucking 6 or 7 sanitary napkins a day. I have to the point that I'm messing up my clothes because it's going through my clothes, or anything like that, and I have to wear pull-ups, and my daughter can't go to school sometimes because I'm so lightheaded that I'm afraid that I'm gonna fall down when I'm outside with her, or I can't cook dinner for my daughter because I'm so fucking lightheaded I can't stand up in my kitchen and fix her up a proper meal, or I can't do X, Y, and Z because I'm losing so much blood so rapidly. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do as a doctor. I think doctors take an oath. I'm not sure if they do or not. But if you want to be a doctor, you're supposed to fucking help the people that comes to you. I was reading so many articles, and I feel like my boyfriend was like, maybe you should really, try to see, like, make your voice heard. This is something that you're going through. Make your voice be heard. Let them know what's going on. Shed some light on what's going on, because even if it may, if something is not going to work out for me, maybe you might help the next person. He's like, talk to your counselors, talk to the people out here. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this shit above and beyond, because I personally feel like what they did to me was a really fucked up thing. I needed to be here for my daughter. You know what I'm saying? There was times when, I really couldn't do anything. It was one time I was walking down the train step, and I fell on my daughter, and she's like, "Mommy, like, get off me." Like, she didn't know that I was kind of passing out because I was bleeding so much, and I'm trying to take her to school. And I'm crying because I'm scared. I was really scared that I wouldn't be able to be here for her. It was another article I read about this woman. She went to the doctor complaining about her shoulder. It ain't even just about these OBGYNs. Doctors in general, they don't treat us right. It was an article that I read about this African woman. I don't want to say any names and stuff because I don't know if I'm allowed to. But maybe I could give you the website. I can give you the link or something so that you can read it. But it was an African American woman, and she went to the doctor, and she was telling them, like, listen, I'm having like really sharp shoulder pains. It's hurting really bad. So the doctor just basically wrote her a prescription and sent her on her merry little way. She said it was to the point like she was crying herself to sleep at night. And I was like, that's sad. So she went like past her doctor and stuff like that, and they went and they did I think she did a CAT scan or MRI or something like that. Come to find out, she had a tear on her shoulder that the doctor didn't want to do. These doctors, they so quick to just throw prescriptions at you without really checking out the problem. Okay, my doctor told me, oh, you have like a hormone imbalance situation, but okay, why not send me out for some testing? Okay, you don't see nothing in the results. Okay, then it has to be something else. You have to keep checking. You can't just say, oh, well, I don't see nothing, so here, I'm going to write you a prescription for some birth control pills, and here go a new asthma pump. And then because what was happening was, being the fact I have asthma, but being the fact that my blood was so low, it seemed like I couldn't really breathe well. So they would just give me a prescription for a new asthma pump, give me a prescription for some birth control pills. Oh, and they would also give me iron pills. And they only gave me one prescription for iron pills. So the rest of my iron pills I had to buy out of pocket. And he was saying, it has to do something with my insurance and stuff like that. And I'm like, this new doctor that I saw had the same fucking insurance that I had for many years now, okay? Only thing that's changed on there is that I added my daughter to it. Other than that, I had the same insurance, and he took care of me. He went and he found the problem. Who knows if the problem could have been taken care of years ago before I got this bad. It felt like I didn't even have my menstrual sometime. I just felt like I was just bleeding, like just pouring out blood, because I didn't really have any cramps like that. I mean, it was times when I had like severe cramps. Like, it felt like it was hitting me in my back. But then it was times that I didn't feel anything. It was just like I was just bleeding. And then it got to the point like it was just like a fucking normal thing. So, I'm saying all of this to say this. I feel as though it's my due diligence to shed some light on this issue, on how the system is and how they treat us African American women and these doctors and these hospitals and these clinics, whatever. If you go to your doctor and you're complaining about anything, it is their job, okay, to do everything in their power to help you out. It seems as though all they want to do is give you a prescription and then that's all they feel like they should do when they shouldn't. And it's unfair to us. You know what I mean? And it's also unfair to my child that she has to see her mom bleeding and crying the way she does. So not only was, from the beginning, was my doctor neglectful on how she treated me when I came and I was complaining to her about my symptoms. I had another doctor who misdiagnosed me. Now, the second doctor, I was happy, like, oh my God, like now I have a doctor who's really gonna help me out and really find the problem and stuff like this. And this lady told me I got fibroids. After everything, come to find out, I don't even have fibroids. That's what I was telling the people when I went to the hospital, went to the doctors. I went to another doctor, specialist or whatever. I'm bleeding, because you can't go to your doctor telling you bleeding. You had to go to like a hospital or some shit like that, because they're gonna like make you go to a doctor's appointment. So I'm like, okay, let me go to the hospital. Maybe they'll do something for me or whatever. They never did nothing for me either. I don't know how many fucking prescriptions I had for birth control pills. Then I went to a doctor and told me to stop taking birth control pills because it could have gave me a stroke. And I'm like, oh my God, like why would she do that for? And then I go to the new doctor, and he started me off with a prescription for the birth control. He said, this is shit. He's like, this is just like, something temporary. He's like, just take this. And then he's like, you have enough. He's like, when we find out what, the issue is, we'll go to another. And then he also told me that, when I'm ready to have a child, that he would help me. It's just crazy. It is really crazy. And to shed light on another situation, Kim Porter, she just passed, and I read that she had went to her doctor complaining about, I think it's flu-like symptoms or something like that. I don't really remember. But they were saying, she went to her doctor complaining. Then, look, now she's passed away. I went to my doctor's complaining about how much bleeding, when I mean the blood, it was ridiculous. The blood, to the point, I'm bleeding so much from my menstrual that I need to get a blood transfusion. It's something terribly wrong. Nobody's menstrual cycle should send them to a hospital where they need to get blood transfusion because they lost so much blood. And if I'm coming to you and I'm telling you, hey doctor, listen, I'm bleeding a lot, this, that, and the third, whoop, you're supposed to be like, you know what, let's figure out the issue, let's do what we need to do. Like I said, February 2nd, to be exact, 2016, is when I went to my doctor first complaining about the situation. November the 30th, 2018 is when I finally was able to get a surgery to take care of the issue that I was complaining about since 2016, being hospitalized, having blood transfusion, being on different medications as far as the birth control pills, spending so much money on pads and those pull-up shits. Them things is expensive, child. I had to buy freaking maybe 4 or 5 of them because I was bleeding so much. Them things is freaking $15 a pop. Then on top of that, I was buying pads too. Them things is between $8 to $10. I'm going through one thing of pads. I buy the 24 in the pack pads. I swear to God, they were lasting me maybe half a week because I had to keep changing my pad constantly. I would be sitting, I could be sitting down in a chair and I would feel the blood clots just coming down out of me. Like, it felt as though I was about to have a baby, and I would have to run to the bathroom, change myself, sit down again, run to the bathroom, change myself. Thanksgiving, I slept most of the Thanksgiving because I was so tired because of all the bleeding that I was going through. So this will not be the last time that you're going to hear about this situation, because I feel like I'm going to keep talking about it until I'm blue in the face, because it's not fair how I was treated. It's not fair how a lot of women is treated. You never know. Your next doctor's appointment that you may want to go to, they might do some shit to you, and you're going to be sitting there like, oh, doctor, my fucking foot hurt or some shit. Or, oh, I'm having chest pains. And they like, oh, well, here, just take this. I'm going to give you a prescription for some aspirin or some ibuprofen. You take that like 2 times a day and you should be fine. Next thing you know, you in the hospital because you had a heart attack. Or God forbid, a fucking stroke. Because the doctor she didn't go, or he didn't go and order you no tests. He didn't go above and beyond what they're supposed to do, because they felt like, well, let me just do this, get my money for the day, and then that's it. You know how much these doctors get paid? I went there for a fucking issue. All she did was give me a fucking pap smear, send shit off, give me a pregnancy test. The bitch got fucking paid like maybe like a couple $1,000 or a couple hundreds. I don't really know. They get paid a lot just to do nothing and send me a prescription for some birth control pills, and I was still bleeding. Like, it got to the point like I just had to wait until the bleeding stopped by itself. That's how it was, because nobody was ever helping me. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a page to talk about this. I'm going to reach out to some very important people. And we're going to, I'm going to work on this shit. Because it's really not fair how we're treated. You know what I'm saying? And it's just not right. You know what I'm saying? You never know if it could happen to your family member. It could happen to you. It could happen to your children. Anything. God forbid you take your little black child to the fucking doctor complaining about, oh, you know, my child, you know, she hasn't been feeling good. She had a really bad cough. Oh, it's fine. Here, just give her some fucking cough medicine, some cough syrup. Baby might have fucking pneumonia or the flu or some shit like that. But the doctor would really never know, because all they did was just give you some cough syrup and just send you on your fucking merry little way. And it happened to my sister when she was a baby. So, with that being said, thank you all for listening. I hope that you guys really do, you know, listen to what I have to say. And, you know, I'm definitely feel like I'm going to make a change, or I'm going to try my damnedest to make a change for me, my daughter, my future children, and anybody who experienced a situation similar to this, or even had a situation where you felt like your doctor didn't listen to you at all. So, you know, have a great weekend. Happy Saturday. Peace and blessings. And, you know, I would say be productive, but, you know, today's Saturday. So, goodbye, you all. Bye.